Big moments for Marouane Fellaini. Wright and Danny Higginbotham are here. And Danny, why is Marouane Fellaini Manchester United's secret weapon?
Well, it's obviously we've just seen him scoring a goal, but it's the other end of the pitch. I think there's no secret about it. Mourinho wanted a centre back in the summer, and in my opinion, the reason he wanted a centre back was to score more goals. I know it sounds a little bit bizarre, but I think if he'd have got the centre back, the commanding centre back that he wanted, then I think there would have been less responsibility on the likes of Sanchez, Lingard, Rashford, Martial when he's playing to actually come back and do some of the dirty work, because he doesn't trust his central defensive partnership. What we saw against Burnley, and I think it's something we'll probably see against Watford as well, is that he had his two centre-backs, Lindelof and Smalling, and he got Matic and Fellaini. They just sat in front, and if anything, Matic was the one that went a little bit further forward. Now, against Brighton and against Tottenham, Lukaku was unbelievably isolated. Yeah. He was up on his own, he had no support. But what happened was, the knock-on effect from having Fellaini and Matic sitting in front of the two centre-backs, it meant that Shaw, who's in incredible form at the moment, and Valencia, they could play as wingers. And because they were playing as wingers and giving the width, the first 45 minutes, Sanchez, Lukaku and Lingard, their movement, their interchanging, because they were playing so close together, was irresistible. It was absolutely brilliant. And that came because you had this box, this defensive box. Fellaini did on numerous occasions go out to the right-back position, Matic out to the left-hand side, and they protected the two centre-backs, which then allowed the players further forward to play probably 10, 15 yards out of the pitch and get around Lukaku.
And then you watched them, there was certain instances as well where when Burnley were knocking it up there to Woods and that, he was the one who was the furthest back when Woods was trying to challenge it. He was the one who was challenging, winning the ball and playing it into midfield. Some of the times he was winning it in midfield, playing 1-2s and going forward as well. And in the opposing box, in respect of getting in, he's deadly. If he's playing like that, and I know it's Burnley who, by that game, they had 10 games already, like we just mentioned there, Dan. And the fact is that they did look a little bit tired, but Fellaini was head and shoulders above everybody else.
You know, there will be people watching this. There will be Manchester United United fans watching and listening to this. And we're going, no, not Marouane Fellaini.
He gets a hard time simply because I feel that he came in for the money he came in at the time. It was a lot of money then. Was it 30-something million for it? It was David Moyes, and it was David Moyes, and it was a little bit of he was a little bit of the butt of everyone's jokes. It was like a joke signing. All the signings you can have, and you go back to Everton and get Fellaini. And I think we saw Van Gaal use him, and then we've seen Mourinho use him. And that says to me it's because they know that he offers something. You know, that's why gave him a new deal.
I think the problem that you have, I think Liverpool have had it over the years when you go back to the 70s and the early 80s, you know, with the team they had. Arsenal, obviously the Invincibles. You know, Chelsea have obviously had great success. Manchester City, they've been on an upward curve. Really, they've not had that downside yet, as in terms of when they started to get success in Manchester United. But what you tend to do as a supporter is look back. Oh well, you know what? He's no Paul Scholes. He's no Roy Keane. But that's gone. You're now rebuilding again. And don't get me wrong, as a United supporter, as an Arsenal supporter, you'd love to see the Vieiras, you'd love to see the Henrys and playing all the time. But unfortunately, there comes a point where you've got to rebuild. There comes a point when them players do go away. So if you're going to bring in players, you can't compare them to them legends, to them greats, because unfortunately, then not all of them players are around. You know, and people talk about the X, Y and Z way, whoever that may be. Well, we've spoken about it before, times change and players change, systems change. You know, you talk about Manchester United, and for me growing up watching Manchester United, it was watching the wingers, watching the likes of Giggs, Kanchelskis, Sharp, Beckham getting the ball, keeping the width, midfield runners going in. Well, wingers are inverted now. It comes from the full-back, so that's automatically going to change. And I just think Fellaini, because at times he's not pleasing on the eye, doesn't get the credit he deserves. What he does, he allows players that are in front of him to go and express themselves. Would he be playing if Mourinho had got the centre-back that he wanted? Possibly not. But this is probably Mourinho's way of going, right, OK, what I can do is keep us defensively strong, whilst also going forward and scoring goals.
What happens with Fred now? Has that worked? Fred and, you know, I think, because now Matic has to play. Fellaini.
I think the problem you have right now is that I don't know whether you can play, myself personally, whether you can play Pogba and Fred in the same team. Because I think when Fred came, everybody's like, oh, he's going to be this defensive linchpin, play alongside Matic. He's not. He's a player that likes to get forward. I think if you have the two centre-backs that are trusted by Mourinho, that partnership, the centre-backs at Manchester United, regardless whether good, bad or indifferent, the problem is they're all the same type of play.
Yeah.
It's like centre forward. You wouldn't want to play with someone that's exactly the same as you because they bring the same sort of thing to the game.
Make the same runs.
Yeah, so therefore, if you've got two centre-backs that are exactly the same, that doesn't necessarily work. I think if Mourinho would have got the centre-back that he wanted, the commanding one, the one that would take the ball out, ask questions of the opposition midfield, then yes, you could probably look at it and go, yeah, or Alderweireld. Then you could probably look at it and go, yeah, you know what, we can deal with Matic, Fred and Pogba. I think because he doesn't trust the two centre-backs, or he can't get a settled centre-back partnership, I don't think he can play Fred and Pogba together because I think he needs that insurance of Matic and Fellaini, giving Pogba the free role to go forward.
So you'd start Fellaini regularly then?
I would do, definitely. At the moment, I see no reason, especially when you look at the Watford game. I think Watford, Troy Deeney is in fantastic form. He is the leader of that team. They've got the big man, small man up there. And I think the one thing that they will want to do is get into a scrap with the two centre-backs. You're looking at Fellaini saying, right, OK, any deep free kicks against us, any goal kicks against us, two centre-backs, stay back. Keep the back four nice and narrow, nice and compact. Let Fellaini go up for the ball. Because if the centre-back starts going up for balls with Deeney wins the ball, you know Gray's going to be on his shoulder and your centre-back's out of the game. So I think it's a game that would suit Matic and Fellaini playing together 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and would you start him regularly? It's not necessarily just for this game, but do you think he's now an integral part of what Mourinho wants to do?
Well, I think that if you do get, like, the game what they're coming up against Watford is going to be the kind of game that will suit him because of his physical aspect that he brings to the game. I think when you get into a game against a Manchester City, or even maybe a Liverpool, it may be different, but I'd still probably play him because you can still play him in advance because he can do that role as well. You can play him closer to maybe Lukaku if you can get the ball up there and I think that he's somebody that if you leave him in the team, he could probably he'll fit in somewhere and cause a problem for teams because he's not a poor player. He's a good player. He's a good footballer.
So Marouane Fellaini then, the case for.
Yes, well,
why is there such a strong case against, do you think? And why has there been such a strong case against?
I'm going to go ahead and say it's a word I've used quite a lot in recent years, snobbery. I think there's a lot of snobbery in football. I really do. I think that a lot of people look at football unless you're pleasing on the eye. You know, what good are you to a football team? Now, I look at all the best teams in Europe, whether it be domestic teams or national teams. Every single one of them has got that defensive midfielder that's going to sit. They're all different types, don't get me wrong. But in order for teams to be able to express themselves going higher up the pitch, you've got to give them the licence, you've got to give them the insurance to go forward. And I think that we're in now a period of football where it's seen where we have to play a certain way. It has to be the beautiful game. It has to be 15 passes and then the ball into the back of the net.
Is that what Man United fans want, that expansive football? But Man United, about, like you said, about the wingers and getting it forward quickly and playing with excitement. And
but I think, but that's where I bring Fellaini into it. I think bringing Fellaini into the team like he did against Burnley enables United to do that. So people may say, well, I don't want to see Fellaini in the team. Well, if Fellaini's in the team, that means that Lingard, that means that Sanchez, that means that your two fullbacks, they can all get closer and support Lukaku because he's the insurance that's there. You know, because you need that defensive midfielder. If you're one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the Premier League, I've always said, and I stand by it, you've got to have 4 players behind the ball. Because the likelihood is the teams that you're going to be playing against, they're looking to counter-attack. They can't go toe-to-toe with you. So they're going to allow you onto them and then try and play you on the counter-attack. But if you've got 4 players then that can go across the width of the box, that enables your full-backs to go forward. And when people look at Fellaini and go, oh, well, Fellaini shouldn't be in the team, what have you, I look at it and go, well, the reason Fellaini is in the team is because all these flair players that you're going on about, they can actually go and express themselves higher up the pitch now because he's in the team, helping out the defensive side, so the flair players have got that defensive responsibility taken off the shoulders.
I'll tell you as well, Kels, I still go back to saying I think it's got to do with the fact that under Moyes' tenure, he signed him and it wasn't the signing that they wanted. And so he came in to a very negative atmosphere and the way that went. And I think that's why they feel like they do about him, which once they get past that, and I think Mourinho's doing his best to try and help him with that, and they see the performances he put in, especially at Burnley, and he just needs to put those kind of performances against teams in the top 6, and then people start to realise that. But I just think it's purely down to the fact that Moyes signed him and that it wasn't a great time.
I think as well, just the last one, I think as well if you're looking at someone like Fellaini and you're saying, right, OK, well, is he going to be in the team for the foreseeable future? If we're talking about the fact of your team's needing the 2 defensive midfielders so everyone else can go and express themselves. Who else do you bring into the team then? That's the question that you look at and think, right, OK, well, who else can do that job? Fred, like I said, I think he's a good player, but
it wasn't Matic. Wasn't that Matic's why they signed Matic? Because when Matic signed, everyone was saying, well, that's it now. Pogba's going to be freed up and he's going to be able to go and play and express himself.
That was, but if you're going to play in a 3, then obviously it could have been at times Matic and Herrera allowing Pogba to go forward. But I still always think you need that too. That goes for Liverpool. We said the difference between Liverpool now is that they don't leave themselves open at the back. Manchester City, when they play a 3 at the back at times, they still got Fernandinho sitting in front. Now, if you look at it logically, people will say, well, why do you need to defend with 4? Well, hang on a second, you're attacking with 6. Because both your fullbacks are going, so it's not a bad ratio if you're defending with a 4 but attacking with a 6. That's still a very attacking intent team. And like I say, I don't care what anybody says. The Burnley game, OK, Burnley may have been poor, but United were very good in that game. There's no doubt about it, the movement and everything. And it looked as though Mourinho had settled on this system that was going to bring the best out in the players around him, and everybody really performed.